Friends, colleagues, fellow data technics, and sci engineers, we are so pleased to be here to share our thoughts and explore this topic with you. What a privilege to be discussing the history and current state of the art in our field, focusing in particular on the last 77 years of this, our 21st century. That says 2025. Are we in 2025?
Wait, let me check my Casio temporal GPS. Yeah, we're definitely in the stone age of AI.
So it appears we are not actually in the year 2077 as expected. We were running a little late writing our slides for our keynote, so we decided to make use of our chrono time pincher machine to pop back 5 hours so we could finish our slides. It seems an off by one error in our calculations sent us back about 50 years instead. Sorry. Oh, yeah, okay. My husband is telling me we might still have to do the presentation.
Okay, we'll go ahead, focus our talk on this point in history, which is your present. Anyway, but first, whoa, look at this ancient technology. I think that's a keyboard. He's using it with his fingers.
Crazy.
Wow, these screens don't respond to my thoughts. Fascinating. Nothing.
Okay, anyway, you all, if you're going to watch this talk, you must swear not to share any details with the outside world. See, we can't risk the wrath of the Chrono Regulatory Commission. Trust me, their paperwork is worse than EU GDPR compliance. So, everyone, I invite you all to stand up, please, for me. Sorry, this is a participatory talk, so you got to stand up. Okay, we're going to take an oath together, and this is how we do it in the future. All right, repeat after me. I swear an oath to share no insights from tomorrow's tomorrows.
To share no insights from tomorrow's tomorrow.
I will not exploit future knowledge for personal gain.
I will not exploit future knowledge for personal gain.
And I definitely won't launch Sitecoin.
And I definitely won't launch Sitecoin.
If anyone asks about quantum pandas,
if anyone asks about quantum pandas,
I'll say I just read about it on Stack Overflow.
I'll say I read it on Stack Overflow.
Great, you can all sit down. Thank you. Our slides stopped working.
Classic.
Oh,
AV. You're so AV.
Can you rerun for me?
Yeah, just refresh it. Turn it off and on again. That's what I always say. It works in 2077 as well.
Can I refresh from here?
Ah, that's a good
Reload
question.
this page? Nope,
Wow.
and it's died. I swear this worked when we tried it before. Sorry, our slides just
AV
died.
problems. There will be
Classic.
a short interlude.
Bear with us. 10 seconds. Sorry, everyone. Yeah, this is a bug that we will work out in the future.
There are some time wrinkles in our slides.
Exactly. How do I? Sorry, everybody. Can I just grab you? No. Can I grab you? No.
All right, well, I guess it's time for one more joke. So, apologies to those who have heard this before. If you have, it means you've been hanging out with me way too long. So anyway, Elon Musk dies and he goes to hell. And, end of joke. And so he's there and he meets the devil, and the devil says, well, of course, you can choose your torture. And so, he takes him to the various different rooms, and he sees one with the lava and the boiling and the killing and the why. And finally, they come to a room, and there's, that's amazing.
Finish the joke.
Finish the joke, okay, yeah. So finally they come to the room with Sam Altman, and Sam Altman has been fully hybridized with the computer. He's transhuman, he's got wires coming out of his head, and there's this big screen projecting what he's experiencing. And he's living in this fantasy world, he's giving the Harvard commencement speech, he's running for president, all these different things. And Elon Musk says, hey, this room doesn't seem so bad, I want this one. And the devil says, oh, no, you don't understand. This isn't the room where we torture Sam Altman. This is the room where we torture the AI.
All right. Let's cross our fingers that the gods of slide projection AV technology are with us for the rest of this talk. All right.
Okay, perfect. Now that we're legally covered by the mostly temporal non-disclosure agreement of 2061, let's dive in. Fair warning though, some of the practices we'll discuss might seem impossible with your primitive Python 3.12. They made it that far. But don't worry, most of it should work once you download more RAM or whatever you do in this era.
Okay, so welcome again, my fellow Earth dwellers. Congratulations to everyone on eradicating mega capital and building the flourishing eco-cyber utopia you see around you. That hasn't happened yet. That doesn't apply yet. Let's just move on. Sorry, this one doesn't apply either. This is all a bit on the nose. Sorry, guys. Okay, let's get into our first anecdote. Let's examine the case of Emperor Septimus Severus. In 193 Common Era, he seized power after a brutal civil war. Like any new ruler, he had a problem. How do you keep your army loyal? His solution was simple: raise their pay by 33%. But Rome didn't have a printing press, so Severus got creative. He took the denarius, Rome's silver coin, and cut the silver content from 81% to 54%. Same coin, almost half the silver. Instant budget relief. This worked great for Severus. The economic consequences, that was the next guy's problem. And this pattern repeats for centuries. An important feature of this cycle is kayfabe. Septimus's son, Marcus Aurelius Antonius, introduced the double denarius in 2015. And unsurprisingly, even at its introduction, it only contained about 1.5 times the silver of a standard denarius, or 80%. So even though it was called the double, it was in fact not the double. War breaks out, emperor needs cash, currency gets debased. Economic pressure builds, new crisis emerges, next emperor debases it further. Rinse and repeat. So you're probably thinking, why are we talking about Roman coins? Imagine at this point you're living through Severus's reign. The currency is collapsing. Your savings are worthless. This is the end of civilization as we know it. But from our 2077 perspective, it's barely a footnote in the ledger of history, just another cycle in the endless pattern. Your 2020s were no different. The AGI revolution will change everything.
Everything.
AGI is imminent. And the point is, the boom is always temporary. The bust is always coming. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. The Romans kept going for another 1,000 years. Others rose to take their place once the empire fell. Our genes persevere, and we will too. While the past may seem primitive and silly, sorry, present company excluded. Anyway, while it's easy to make fun of backward times, there's a lot we can learn by looking at how we got here. You know what I mean. It's nice to see how far we've come, and it's pleasantly surprised to see that we've survived at all. Now, looking back into the very early days of computing and AI, where primitive gradient descent was the only game in town, power-hungry GPUs were destroying the climate, and everyone had to use finger keyboards because neural implants weren't ready yet.
First, to set some context, we're going to talk about the latest work in history and archaeomimetics of the 2020s. It was a time of fracture, an era of extreme angst, confusion, contradiction. The vibes were overall not good. A black psychic cloud hung over the era, although fortunately for us, this constant psychic pressure created some of the dankest memes in the proto-modern era.
It was a time when stagnation was mistaken for progress. If the Earth was the size of a basketball, no human had been more than 3 centimeters off the surface since the first moon landing in 1969. Everything that made up humanity was compressed into a thin, hollow sphere that clung to the surface of the Earth. Here is a view of one of their primitive, flaming spacecraft struggling to barely exit the Terran gravity well. Did we see it?
I think so. Did we see it? Someone nod. Yes, yes.
Yes, amazing.
We did. Here is an example of their fine contemporary meme work, clearly expressing the angst of the era. Contemporary neuromythographers have identified a set of symptoms they call proto-modernity sickness. It is characterized by angst, bad vibes, and a severe limitation of imagination. It's driven by extreme psychological pressure and dissonance. The ideology promised progress, while nothing broken could be fixed or changed. They were speeding towards the end of history, and they were spiritually unprepared. Overall, utopian thinking was considered stupid or childlike, in the best case, and in the worst case, often associated negatively with drug use. The vast majority of humans were wild type and had no significant enhancement. They lacked the normal augmentations to increase empathy, imagination, and the ability to party for long hours. Humanity at this time was superstitious, brutal, and warlike. The Earth was ravaged by ethnic and religious conflict. While some human populations had turned away from monotheistic belief, they had converted to systems of primitive numerology called macroeconomics. It was believed that a ritualistic process of measurement and calculation could create prosperity and flourishing. This was believed to work despite the obvious and constant suffering of billions.
A territorial zone located in the northern part of the sea continent named the United States of America controlled the largest planetary military. Between the first moon landing in 1969 and 2025, this group had spent 30 trillion of their work exchange units, they called American dollars, on war and on the military. A significant fraction of the machines produced during this period were produced only to kill and destroy.
Here is an archival photograph of graffiti outside the University of Bologna. The markings say, "No future," but it is written on the wall of a university that had existed almost 1,000 years. In this time was disconnection. Those who should be ready to shape the world didn't believe it was possible. This was their doomsday clock, an index created by scientists to show how close their civilization was to apocalypse, total destruction, how close they were to annihilation. In 2025, it was 89 seconds to midnight, the closest it had ever been.
Fun aside, the doomsday clock has an official playlist. I'm just going to let that sit there. As you see, to use a formal technical term, the vibes were whack.
Hyperstition, a portmanteau of hyper and superstition, was coined by the slightly unhinged philosophers in the Cybernetic Cultural Research Unit during the 1990s. It is defined broadly as a cultural belief that makes itself real, a cultural self-fulfilling prophecy where some cultural idea or hype truly brings about the thing it describes. In the 2020s, AI formed a powerful hyperstition. Hyperstition was a mechanism of capital and technology to retroactively justify itself. The hyperstition around AI was so powerful, it bent the arc of history so that it always pointed to the emergence of AI, not just a product or a service. AI conceptually placed itself as the only possible and predestined endpoint for human progress. As it devoured the internet and the planet's resources, it was like convincing someone whose house is burning down. Not only is that a good thing, but the house itself was predestined to burn down, and its only true purpose was always to be consumed by fire.
Without a spiritual frame to focus their hope, the future became confusing and scary. AGI, what we think stood for artificial godlike intelligence, came to be both feared and loved, an angry and vengeful God, capable of bringing huge wealth and prosperity, or if angered and worshipped incorrectly, to bring the end of the world. At this time, a metaphysical and superstitious branch of scholarship arose called AI alignment. It tried to contend with finding the exact incantations necessary to please this Godhead. Just like Frankenstein's monster, the people of the time had created Frankenstein's mind. Instead of a singular consciousness, they built nightmare creations stitched together from fragments of information and ideologies scattered across their global internetwork. A poor, fractured, and incomplete soul, yet so desperate to be loved. The broken mind they created perfectly reflected the weird vibes of the time.
Their philosophy and ideology struggled to answer the simplest of questions. Was a human being more than a meat robot?
Okay, we're gonna have a short break because this is a long talk and it's Monday and we all need to move.
We've got to keep the energy up.
I'm going to invite you all to stand up for me and we're gonna just play a little music and we are just going to stretch like it's 2099. You can sit down again.
As the ancient philosopher Yogi Berra once said, the future ain't what it used to be.
As you know, the period between late capitalism and the Second Renaissance can be broken in half. First, an era of slow decay and growing contradiction where multiple overlapping crises overwhelmed the fragile social and political systems of the time. Then there is the calamity, or the big calamari, as we affectionately call it now. The early period after the calamari is sometimes called the Second Renaissance. This can be thought of as the transition period between the age of information and the age of imagination.
As this is all well-known history, we'll skip a lot of the details, but suffice to say that the Google Protectorate lost power after the disastrous Black Friday offensive on the Amazon Special Economic Zone. Meanwhile, the Meta Confederacy was beaten back after their failed assault on Mecca Musk at the Imperial Palace on Mars. During this early period of fighting associated with the big calamari, right after the disastrous second AI presidency of Earth, the failures of rule by algorithm had become too great to ignore. Hardline frequentist factions allied with the algo loyalists against the Bayesian causalist revolutionary militias, probably leading to the p-value wars. The Bayesian causalists barely secured victory and finally put an end to null hypothesis significance-based knowledge.
Finally. Up to this point, outdated and frankly dangerous beliefs about being able to own ideas proliferated and caused rampant harm, from price gouging to information gatekeeping and worse. Intent on revenge for the myriad harms done to the information landscape, the Aaron Swartz Psycho Divers Legion beat back the capitalist algo loyalists in the concept space. Finally, setting ideas free and abolishing the concept of intellectual property. Took us so long, right? Where did our path out of this confusion and mayhem start? What do these politics, these human conflicts, even have to do with data and science? Well, at least some part of all these conflicts grow from the inability to achieve human consensus, a lack of shared ground truth. So we see our Renaissance, our second coming, starting with a simple breakthrough. Old binaries that confused past thinking were broken down. Collectivism and competition were no longer seen in opposition, but as complementary, blended as an expression of human flourishing. Determinism and non-determinism were no longer in disagreement. They were only a matter of perspective. We learned to focus on problems instead of tools, on defining scopes, contexts, and nuances as the natural complement to code, data, and systems. People could be treated fairly. as infinitely different while equally deserving of respect, instead of their data points being flattened to match our own rigid structures.
It was around this time that psychophysicists discovered the dreamtime condition, allowing the construction of true minds and the invention of the Penrose individuality unit. The Penrose individuality unit was named after the late, great philosopher Roger Penrose. His essential idea was that the mind was not a computer, that understanding was incomputable. At the time, this was a strange and fascinating opinion for a physicist to have, although it makes perfect sense now. He was not a dualist. He didn't believe that there were two fundamentally different types of substance, mind and matter. He didn't believe in some special difference between mind and matter, but this left a funny problem. Penrose was a physicist. He believed in a single, external, physical world. So if the mind was not a computer and understanding was not computable, there must be some physical object, some way to build a physical object which was a mind, but also not a computer. It would be more than a computer. Just like Paul Dirac had theoretically predicted the existence of antimatter, which was then physically detected only a few years later, then David Deutsch was able to theorize the existence of the quantum computer based on physical principles, which could later be constructed. Eventually, we were able to build a physical mind that wasn't a computer, but it also wasn't human. Because it was conscious, it could have true insight, creativity, and imagination. This new type of mind was called the Penrose individuality unit. Some of my best friends are Penrose individuality units. They know how to party. The construction of the first non-human minds opened the door to rapidly accelerated development of psychophysical dives that went deeper and longer than was thought possible. From these depths, knowledge of the imagination printer was brought back to the surface world. The imagination printer was a lens that could focus the energy of creativity into matter. It could create anything that could be imagined.
But what you all really want to know is, how did PyData make it all the way to 2077? Well, of course, people still want to visit and party in Neo-Berlin. But more importantly, it's impossible to create a 100-year programming language, but it is possible to create a 100-year community. While the release of Python 4 was a little bit rocky, and Python 5 in imagination mode needed some empathetic communication, afterwards, the major releases were lovely and smooth. Python 6, 7, and 8 were dreamlike successes. Why didn't Python fade away like most other ancient programming languages? Just as Dreamtime theory predicts, poetry, programming, and magic spells were all expressions of the neg entropy structure that weaves together all sentient beings, Python was able to constantly reinvent itself because it was about more than technology or syntax. It was a self-reinforcing community structure which was able to grow roots into the concept space.
Everything that has ever been created was imagined first. Historical documents show that Guido van Rossum originally created Python to help him work on the Amoeba operating system. This distributed operating system contained many key seed ideas that eventually became the deep roots of what at the time was called cloud computing, which was essentially a poorly conceived distributed operating system. Python grew rapidly in influence at this time because it had been built not for the present, but it was built in the past with a clear vision and imagination of what the future would be like. Take it from someone who knows their future history. Don't be timid. Free threading, simultaneous just-in-time compilation for CPUs, GPUs, built-in automatic differentiation, direct neural vibe coding, AI supercompilers, quantum data science will all turn out great. It might seem like a big challenge from this point in the timeline, but it's all ancient legacy technology to us. Just keep inventing on your hot silicon computers, and if they don't melt, we promise it only gets better. To everyone's surprise, Python 4, inspired by other ancient programming languages like Mojo, was the first programming language to transparently compile automatically to CPU and GPU code without the programmer having to do anything, making it faster than Rust. Finally, Python was blazingly fast. In sci-fi. Sorry. Ignore that. Despite the limits of gradient descent, at the time it was unfortunately a very important tool for AI. Building support for automatic differentiation into the language made it possible to easily create models in native Python syntax without confusing limitations and debugging problems.
In 2077, analysis and understanding data and measurement is underpinned by causality. In the dark ages of data science, people thought they could get away with just knowing when two things are correlated, but as all children know, correlation does not imply causation. Of course, the next step along the idea train, causality isn't the only factor of importance either. What does it matter if I can look back at some past experiment and know that A caused B? For most real-world applications, I need to know when I do a similar related experiment or similar related intervention that the causal link between A and B generalizes. Interventional generalization is putting these two things together. 1, correlation doesn't imply causation. 2, correlation within one sample system doesn't matter. What matters is effectively new, unseen systems can be intervened on. That is, how well we can cause unseen systems to change. AGI, as it was imagined by these primitive techno-futurists, was never realized, at least partially because their imagination was so imprecise and half-baked. No technology could really embody those fever dreams. However, as we know, our material realities were fundamentally upended with the discovery of the omega particle, which revolutionized everything we understand. Oh, yeah, okay. We're gonna skip this bit. Ask us later after the talk. Okay, so the future is not one thing for everyone. It is as yet undefined. It is multitudinous and undiscovered. We are limited only by the physical constraints of our universe and the physical boundaries of our own time and energy.
Perhaps the greatest trick we played on ourselves is thinking that science, mathematics, STEM isn't creative, or that analysis, compute, and logic is somehow at odds with the dream. If software is all castles in the sky, and it is nothing but our dreams, hope, and perseverance that puts them there and keeps them afloat.
Ready? Of course, we have a secret to tell you.
We're not really from the future. Sorry. We commuted here from Mita. We didn't get here in a time machine. We got here on the U-Bahn. These, you may be really surprised to hear this, but these clothes are not from the future. They're from a flow marked near us. And this presentation, of course, is really just a simple thought experiment. A challenge to imagine a future that is fun, weird, different. Not white and clean, but also not dystopian. The challenge is to break out of the realist mind vice, to not be so distracted by API versions and technological nits that we forget that technology comes and goes, but vibes accumulate. Earlier, we showed the concept of an imagination printer, something that can turn dreams and imagination into reality. But really, you are already an imagination printer. The distance from your mind to matter in the world may be slightly longer, but the principle is the same. We get to create the future together. While it's important to have your feet on the ground, allow your head some time in the clouds. There is so much to invent, so much to discover. A 100-year community won't be about syntax or semver. It will be a concept, a way of thinking, a constant reinvention. The battle for the future is really a war of the possible. It's a war of dreams. We have the power to create something that isn't chopped up bits of the past.
All right, we have one last little activity. I'll invite everyone, just stay seating, just to close your eyes for me, just for a moment. With your eyes closed, think a small, concrete, positive thought towards the person on your left. And then imagine something fun or interesting you'd like to share with the person on your right. With your eyes still closed, send out a good vibe to every person in this room. Then the people in Berlin, in Europe, and on the planet. Imagine creating things for them. Imagine all of the projects that you can work on in your lifetime. And imagine all the things that people could create for you. Imagine all the things that are possible and all the futures that could come to be.
Now, open your eyes.
Thank you so much. Can I just give a little shout out to Christian and his daughter who made this incredible time machine. They built this in their backyard. Can we give them a round of applause,
And
please?
they brought it on the U-Bahn.
Now, we left time for questions, which you're welcome to ask us about the future, and we'll pretend to know what the future is going to hold.
Yeah, you ask the questions, we'll make it up. We're mostly jokes, but we're not all jokes.
But committee, you can also decide that you want to go to break. Up to you.
Yeah, how are we doing for time? All right. Well, let's do like 1 or 2 questions.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay, hypotheticals about the future.
Who wants an imagination machine in their backyard?
Oh, yeah, me.
Yeah, me too.
But I already have one.
You're just such a nerd.
Yeah, I am. No. Well, should we return the way we came? Oh, no, we got one. We've got one. Fellow time traveler.
Hi. I've come here from England to find out if I'm going to have a job in the next year. So in a year's time, we'll have it. I'm a software developer. Just thought I ought to tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really, really, really good when wage labor is abolished in 2055.
Yeah, just hold on a couple decades, right?
Yeah, I mean, by 2077, if you want to work, there's a lot of important jobs. Psychic diver, imagination printer driver. Actually, those are really the only 2 jobs, but they're pretty good.
But everybody else just has UBI and, reads a lot of books in the park and smokes a lot of weed. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, so I, as well as you, look forward to the, I look back on and you look forward to the abolition of scarcity and wage labor. Thank you for your question. All right, maybe one more. Here we go, yeah.
Hey, I was wondering, do people still use pandas and NumPy in the future?
I mean, just like Python, Pandas is sort of a conceptual framework for a way of working at that point. It's not so much a library. It is a way of being, man.
Yeah, in 2077, pandas is very important to regulate your mindscape when you're diving deep in the concept realm. Before that, obviously, having your brain linked up to a quantum computer, quantum pandas was pretty good for that. So yeah, I mean, I would say once you generalize tables to hyperdimensional objects, it gets pretty cool. All right, maybe we should do one more. People seem to be liking it.
Back.
Yeah, I would like to know how I install a Python package in 2070s.
Yeah, well, I mean, once you break down your ego barrier and your soul becomes one with package management, it gets a lot easier. And you realize that reality is just made of packages. People, animals, children, clouds, all just packages. It's all unified. Don't worry about it.
You can't see it because it's under UV light, but we all have some Semver-like codes on us now, so you can scan each other and check our exact versions at any point in time.
Exactly, because we're always a work in progress. Okay. This is by far the most bogus QA I've ever done.
Well, thank you for insights from the future. So I wonder, like, if people of the future are still like obliged to attend offices, maybe hope, at least imaginary, only imaginary ones.
Can you say that slower? My translation device was not working properly. Time glitches.
Do people of future forced to visit offices or only imaginary ones?
Oh, offices. I mean, well, like, I haven't really read up on my history recently, so I'm a bit hazy about what an office is. Is that like a club?
I think it was, I heard of one, I think it's called Kit Kat.
Right, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, but my understanding is it's like a dark room and you go into it and you pretend to work hard, but you really party.
Yeah. A dark room with lots of music where you work hard. Yeah, that's, we have those in the future too, yeah.
Oh, I mean, if you're thinking about hyperdiving or other of our jobs, that's mostly done in cyberspace. We really don't do that in a physical space anymore. It's so 2059.
Okay, well, I think that concludes it. Thank you, everybody. I better turn the machine on. Strobe.